All right, y'all. This is a 72 Chevelle, and I want to get y'all to start paying attention to some of these things and looking for some of the stuff when you go and buy some of these rollers, buy some of these classic cars. I want to start pointing out things that I'm finding in these cars a lot that you guys aren't able to see. So first thing is on this car, when we first got it in, it was a lot of you guys that probably thought this car looked perfect. But when we get inside of here and we start looking, I can tell you these quarters were replaced. But it was done poorly because it was only done halfway through. It wasn't taken apart in the spot welds where they had factory. And then when we look on this side, we got the same thing in there. But when you look down a little deeper, in some of these areas you can see rivets. And it's showing that it's 3 layers of metal on top of each other. Now, although it's a lot of work on here, it doesn't mean this is bad. This is a bad car. It just means more or less that you need to negotiate better on what all is going on, what you're gonna be paying for. And throughout this, start hitting me up with some questions so I can answer it if it's related to body repair, rust, and stuff of that nature. What up to the people that just joined? Here's another thing that I wanted to show you. So this piece of metal was sitting down like this. But what it's showing is that they just slapped that over a big hole, and it was painted black on this side. So if you just barely rolled up underneath the car to look real quick, it wasn't gonna stand out as rust because that looks black still. But it was when I got inside and really got in here that we can tell that that's just a real thin piece of sheet metal in there. And we got issues like that throughout the whole car. And even down in this area, when you start dealing with these cars with a lot of rust, it's harder to get the body mount bolts out. It's a lot of extra cutting that isn't necessary if you get the right type of body and you try to find these things in the beginning, or at least you ain't paying top dollar and getting hit over the head in the back end by somebody like me. Here's some other stuff I wanted to go over. What up, Mr. Monty? Some other stuff I wanted to go over on these frames, and also involved with rust. Stuff like that. If you don't get down under there and look through the quarter panels, it's gonna be things like that that's gonna hit you in the back end all the time. Especially for this 72, this frame is just about trash. I can't use it in any way. Even in this area. This is where the steering gearbox is at. All of this is not factory. Somebody's put plate metal over it and did a real sloppy job on the wheels. If you're not looking for stuff like this, these are the expenses that you're gonna run into. Even it goes all the way back here throughout this whole frame. So I'm not saying that this is a bad car or it's impossible to make stuff work. But what I'm saying is, watch how much you're gonna pay for it and use these as your negotiating terms. Because somebody could be asking a whole lot for a car, but when you point this stuff out, you start realizing it. Another area here that's gonna deal with a bunch more rust is up in this control arm. As of right now, I cannot get that bolt out. I've cut the head off and I've cut the ends off of here. But what the issue is that the bolt is actually welded and rusted inside here. So I gotta cut it on the sides to be able to get that to drop. These are the type of things that you're gonna have to deal with in the shop. You're gonna have to deal with it in the shop that we gotta deal with, and this is why time and the money starts getting to where it's at. So that's part of what we got, what's going on there is worrying about these, seeing and looking for these issues that you're gonna run into with a lot of this rust and a lot of these frames is when you're looking for these cars, fellas, you can't be scared to get down there and get dirty. What up, y'all? Here, I'm gonna flip this back around so we can look at some stuff in these rockers. Like stuff like this in this rocker. With the quarter panel, with the fender on and the door on, it's impossible to see this. But if you were to lay down on the floor, you would have seen how bad this was from the beginning in the cowl area. So all of this stuff needs to either be partially or fully replaced. But just making sure you're understanding that this is a feed. This is what's gonna have to happen to get it replaced. And we're gonna be on the same way throughout here. A lot of this stuff is surface rust. We got more cancer, rust in these areas, all the way down in here. And a lot of this stuff like this, when you start looking and you start seeing rust, start asking the questions. If you can start pulling stuff up. If they say no, then they say no, but you can walk away. But you don't want to be sending your car off thinking you had this gem, and then you start finding out how bad things really are and start seeing how much metal needs to be replaced. And even things like this, when I start seeing cars come in where the speaker hose was cut out like this, if you can go in that trunk and look up in there and you start seeing it speaker hose cut out this bad, you start understanding that they cool with cutting corners. And some of that stuff you got to say, if this was done like that, let me start looking a little harder, because stuff like this would easily rust out because it wasn't cured properly. It wasn't painted or anything in these areas to keep the raw metal from rusting. So when you look at stuff like that, that start giving you trigger signs of what else to look for. Yeah, I'll let you know whenever you get ready. We'll get that the T-top repair done.
He didn't say he wanted to take that.
Yeah, I know the problem with them speaker holes. And then here's another area where it was a lot of rust and a lot of BS repairs. All of this is just fiberglass put on top of this hole. It's probably got a rat nest down in here. But this is all the hidden stuff that happened on a lot of these cars that be coming in here. And if you guys aren't looking for this stuff, you're gonna get hit every time. Yeah, we do a lot of G-bodies. Most of the stuff, the parts that we checking for, is gonna be original parts, group. Any other site and source place that we can source it from. It's really easy, but I can kind of get away with buying stuff that's maybe has a little more involved because I'm able to get that stuff taken apart the right way. Thanks, Bose. And let's talk a little bit about suspension stuff too. Why I got this upper control arm. So anytime you guys are out here buying these older cars, almost every time factor in that you want to change bushings out. No matter what kind of car you got, might as well go ahead and say all the bushings is bad from the rip. And one of the reasons you want to put it like this is just to throw it in there. Like this car, the ball joint's been changed a couple times, once or twice probably, but these ball joints is horrible. And then when it comes down to it and you're trying to throw some rims on it and you're starting to hear all this clinking and clanking, it's because you didn't factor that stuff in, that this stuff is gonna be bad. It's been on this car for so long and been through so many miles that once you start putting this stuff on that don't necessarily go on these cars, the problems is gonna show its face. Yeah, I can save anything, baby. It's just parts and time. Yeah, just like I was saying, man, all of this stuff can be saved for depending on the type of car. Like some of the cars, it's not going to be worth saving, depending on, you know, what the resale is for those cars and, you know, what it's hitting for. But something like this, that's a classic, it can be, it's worth the repair for down the road. But not to hate on the G-bodies, I love them to death, but going this deep into a G-body, it's not worth it because there's so many more of them out there. When you start getting into stuff that's in these A-bodies and stuff, it's worth that time. I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't do nothing single stage. It's an old practice. Yeah, you may love it, but it's just what it is. Don't nobody do it. You know, I'm not gonna sit there and try to put the color down, and if I have a mistake and it run, then I can't fix that. I can't get it the right way. So I stay clear of it. I'm not the best place for that. Give me a second. I'm trying to find some more rust spots on here that we can talk about real quick. Let me see. Hey, you got a light? Huh? You got a light?
I'll go get one right quick.
I'm gonna try to hop up under here and show you some stuff on the frame that's real easy for you boys to start identifying, and you ladies out there to start identifying and looking at, that it just starts throwing these trigger signs out that, man, it may be something else going on this car that I gotta look deeper into, or if I gotta look that deep, it ain't even worth me pulling out my pocket to even talk to them about it. You know what I'm saying? I'm just waiting on somebody to grab me a light real quick, and then we'll get up under here. But even throughout here, it's just a bunch of holes throughout this whole pan. And I believe they done some work on here, putting metal on top of metal on some of these areas, but I really won't know until I get her the rest of the way stripped down and up on the frame table so I can strap the body down. But I can tell right in here, that's all been hacked up and covered. So definitely it's just going to be easier to replace as much of the floor pans in this thing as I can, and hopefully we ain't got to do any metal shaping where the time and the labor really starts kicking in. All right, hold on one second. I'm gonna start crawling up under here so we can start looking at the frame and start identifying stuff on here. So if you boys can see this is the first thing. This frame is bent right here. And most likely somebody drove off a curb, you know, bottomed out on something. But for the most part, what that tells me is that this wasn't their baby and they didn't really care. And then down in here, all of this is just bad. So these are some of the risks of buying, not looking thoroughly before you buy inside unseen. You see, inside of there, it looked like the floors look good on the inside, but they just put floors on top of the floors. And these are the things that really get you and getting into your pocket. And stuff like right in here. Again, it doesn't mean the car ain't worth nothing, and it doesn't mean that it can't be fixed or it's not worth fixing. It just means it's not worth fixing for the price that they talking about right now. So even when this car was in, and I'm sure I'm gonna have a lot of problems back here on the springs, one side was always sitting a little bit lower, and I'm sure it has something to do with rust or more likely poor work. But yeah, this floor got rust throughout it. Let me look through some of these questions real quick. Yeah, man, I'm glad that this is helping. And that's gonna be a big thing on some of these 8 bodies about, you know, hoping that, you know, you're able to get one of these. Is that, yeah, they worth it. It's just sourcing the right stuff. And then even when you source the right thing, making sure you're getting down and understanding that this is what this car is truly worth. Because I'm about to face a $20,000 bill. If that's what the bill is going to be, you already know it, and you can factor it in when you're breaking them off that bread, because you can still get this car at a very good price. And then on top of that, you got it at a good price because you already know that you're gonna have to come out of pocket to get some of this stuff fixed, so you can be back in the money. And if you're trying to flip them or just have it for a personal thing, that you're not just going and doing this on a car that'll never get you its value or its worth back out of it. Yeah, so hopefully all of that information start helping you guys start understanding how crucial it is to really take your time and pay attention to everything that you think can be a potential problem when it comes to messing with these cars, going down and hunting for them, spending your hard-earned time for them. What up, bro? And doing all of this stuff, and then you come back, and the next thing you know, you're getting busted over the head because the only way you can get rid of this car is you done take a $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 loss, and it's not worth it if your guys is in the game for it like that. But if it's personal, it's a whole different thing when it's just about the way you feel about it, and that's what you want. But we can give it to you both ways. You can be, you know, want to hustle and get cars out the right way and looking good and safe and make something off of it, or you can go all out just because this is the kind of car you like. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on up in these areas. Yeah, a lot of rust going on around in here, but I'm glad a lot of y'all tuned in. Glad a lot of y'all had tuned in. Next Friday we're gonna do another live, and we're gonna talk about the 65 Malibus that's coming up, and what we're doing on there, what this is for, how this build is gonna be for the shop, and how we planning on getting this car back out on the streets for you guys. So check us out next time about 5 o'clock next Friday. Y'all take it easy.